Welcome back. Now, just before the National Assembly commenced its Easter break, the two chambers passed the 2016 budget. With all the issues that trailed that budget, I sat with the chairman of the House Committee on Appropriation, Representative Abdulmaman Jubril. He started by explaining what has made the 2016 budget the most difficult ever passed by the National Assembly.
I think majorly we have about 2, 3, 4 issues that were key. One, it's the template used for preparing the budget in itself. As you are aware, we're used to the incremental budgeting style, and of course, with the advent of the new administration, the Office of the Vice President announced that we are going to have the zero-based budgeting system. And of course, both the Budget Office and the National Assembly were caught unaware with that. In our perspective, in our own perspective as lawmakers, we would have preferred a situation where we take at least 2016 fiscal to be able to look at that template, study it, understand how it works, then we can start the implementation in 2017. But anyway, that is all in the past. What happened was that this new innovation came into place, caught everybody unaware, the Budget Office unaware, the Budget team unaware, the Ministry of Finance unaware. And I think the civil servants didn't also understand what the whole concept it's all about. And I think that was the beginning of the entire problem. It's a new innovation. Get me right, it's a good innovation and rest, but the implementation was so hasty. Would have given at least one fiscal year to study it, understand it very well before we start the implementation commences. So here we are managing a situation of a budget that comes with a new template that many people do not understand how it works. Then secondly, here we are faced with multiple details of a budget for 2016 fiscal. Then here we are faced with ministers and head of MDAs coming to the National Assembly to say this is not their budget. So we had to do a lot of legwork. We had to do a lot of diplomatic shuttling, particularly the Appropriation Committee. Myself and my colleague in the Senate, Senator Goji, and our members had to engage the standing committees of the House extensively, engage the executive arm of government extensively, engage the budget team extensively to be able to find a way out of this. At the end of the day, of course, we agreed on a particular version of the budget that of course will be used, and we were able to find a way to resolve a lot of these issues before, of course, the budget defense was passed, and of course the defense before the Appropriation Committee by the standing committees of the House was also concluded, and we got to the point of sending the bill back to the House before it was passed.
You said that you worked you worked with the executive on that. How would you say the relationship between the National Assembly and the executive has been or was? Well,
the relationship has been excellent. I can say very clearly, because I have been in this for a while, that this particular National Assembly has been the most generous to the executive arm of government, as far as I know and as far as the length of my experience in National Assembly matters. Now, if I take you back a few months, you know the President sent in his list of advisors to the Senate. It was approved with dispatch. The ministerial list was sent to the Senate. They were all cleared. The supplementary budget came, and you remember the controversy about the subsidy, 460 billion, then suddenly another bill of 108 billion naira was passed, and we all passed that. The MTF came late, and I know in the past, when you don't send the MTF within the stipulated time to the National Assembly, you're all living witness to what used to happen. We managed it properly, accepted the MTF, dealt with it, and got the MTF passed. Then, of course, the budget itself came late. All this, we did it in good faith. We continue to relate with the budget. But one thing, I have never tried to hide from saying things the way they are. At some point, I'm beginning to realize that we're dealing with a budget team that wants things to always go their own way. the budget process all over the world is a situation of give and take. There is no how an executive arm of government will send its budget to the National Assembly or to the Parliament in any part of the world, and you expect that it goes back to the executive arm of government the way it is sent to the National Assembly or to the Parliament. Now, I think it's a fundamental issue. The only thing that it's a bit surprising, it's because the Minister of Budget is a former senator, and he was also part of us in the past. And I thought that he should be able to do more in doing some kind of enlightenment to his colleagues for them to also understand how this process works. My little interaction with the new ministers and of course the head of MDAs, I've come to realize that they are grossly inexperienced in terms of executive and legislature relationship. They do not understand the constitutional provisions. They do not understand the appropriation power vested on the National Assembly and how we can enforce such powers. I think the budget team should be able to educate or enlighten some top officials in the executive arm of government on how this entire process works, and that will make it much more easier for us so that we don't continue to engage people who always want it their way. It is either our way or nothing.
Do you see this being a problem going forward?
Yes, going forward it can become a problem because we've been very, very lenient, we've been very, very generous. We hope that there should not be any friction. We've shown a lot of good faith in the past. I've listed out a lot of things that we've done in the past to actually show that yes, we want to assist this executive arm of government. But again, the attitude of wanting to have things all their own way can become a problem moving forward.
Now let's go to the document that has been passed by the National Assembly, the 2016 budget as we have it now. Now, I would like to have your own opinion on what you have passed. From what the President sent and what you passed, we've been told, just as you mentioned, the issue of people coming, disowning some of the things there. How are you able to help out in this regard? Have all those issues been handled, the padding and that? We also had issues of allocations not reflecting some part of what the administration has said is their own focus. How have you been able to address that with that document that you passed?
Now, very straight to the point, when you have a situation where the executive arm of government already sent a budget detail to the National Assembly, they've done their own job. Any other thing that has to do with controversy about multiple budget details, about ministers and head of MDAs coming to the National Assembly to disown documents, they do not have right to determine for the National Assembly what kind of adjustment will the National Assembly eventually do on the details. So it is now left to the discretion of the National Assembly. And that is why I said the National Assembly has been very generous, because they engage these agencies and they try to find a middle ground on how to resolve the whole of these issues. And going through the reports of the Parliament, you can say fairly they've tried to show some fairness. And we expect that by the time the details gets back to the executive arm of government, they should be able to accent to it.
Okay, but give us a highlight. The allocations for some of these issues, like fighting corruption. A lot of these agencies have always complained that the allocations do not really enable them to carry out their mandate. In this particular budget, what should we expect?
And now that actually takes me back again to the issue of it's part of the challenge. I actually missed that particular important point. In the 2016 fiscal budget, one of the gap we actually noticed was that a lot of allocations that were made are not in tandem with the policy trust of the government. Now, when you hear Mr. President speaks, and when you hear top government official talk in public places, you will realize that the priority of the government, you need not to be told, is security, anti-corruption, and economic diversification. Now, when you take security, of course, you're talking about the armed forces and the police, and of course, we all understand the Boko Haram threat and so many other issues. You cannot leave them without the necessary logistics that are required for them to be able to be able to fight the insurgents. And so we had a lot of challenges. When we look at the budgetary provisions, we saw a lot of loopholes in their overheads, their allowances, even their personnels. They had shortfalls. And so what we did was to try to make up for where they have shortfalls in their personnels, where they have some shortfalls, some that proven shortfalls in their overhead, and some other areas where they need additional capital to be able to withstand the security challenges that we face at the moment. The second aspect, the anti-corruption war, you cannot ask the AFCC, or you cannot continue to give them more and more mandate or enlarge the scope of their activities. You are not providing their allowances, you are not providing operational vehicles, you are not providing money for a fee for lawyers. They have thousands of cases in courts. They're traveling all over the world to go and investigate issues and the rest. So many things. Believe me, if not for the amendments that we did and to try to make up for all these shortfalls, I can assure you that 2016, the FCC will be grounded. So what we did was to try to provide some logistics for them, try to also provide some capital allocation, increase their capital allocation. And confidently, I can tell you, it is only now that you can see the budgetary allocation connects with the policy thrust of Mr. President in terms of security and, of course, the anti-corruption war. In terms of economic diversification, the main area where the president talks about all the time is solid minerals and, of course, agriculture. We saw the gap in solid minerals. They had a meager allocation of about 9 billion. That is a combination of both their current expenditure and the capital expenditure. When we saw that, the first thing we did at the level of the parliament is that we need to create a special intervention fund for the solid mineral sector. Of course, the budget team said in their own opinion that the government will want the private sector to push